Investing.com and a plethora of financial analysts are telling people to dive in right now. They should be buying Stellantis stock right now. Stellantis is hot. They're making more money than anyone else, and this stock is a buy now. You should be buying Stellantis. But interestingly, on, the same week, the same day, Stellantis announced it has gone bankrupt in China. How do these two things correlate? Is it true that Stellantis are the third largest manufacturer of EVs worldwide? Is it true they're making enormous profits? Is it true that you should consider investing in them? Well, let's have a look at the facts. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm the Electric Viking. My name's Sam Evans. Great to see you. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you for supporting the channel. It's wonderful to have so many subscribers this year and to see the views really start to increase over the past 7 days. I think you guys have viewed the channel 1.3 million times. Thanks a lot. Appreciate the support. Okay, Patreon supporters. Thank you. You guys really appreciate what you do, and also our YouTube members. If you want to be a YouTube member, you can see about 20% of our videos about 3 days in advance. I'll put a link in the description below to how you can become a YouTube member. Thank you to our members as well. Great to have you guys. Stellantis, current stock price, $13.52. They hit a high of $21.76 back on the 10th of January 2022. Now, this is a very tricky company because it's new. It's a very new company. I mean, it's a result of recent mergers, recent acquisitions. That's why no one really talks about them. No one seems to understand what's going on here. And, well, that's fair. Price to earnings ratio is incredibly low for this company, who actually have a very low debt in the automotive industry. When you think about it, right? I mean, investing.com says this, right? Ford has $130 billion in debt. Stellantis now have about $20 billion. Isn't that amazing? Well, the thing is, Ford's debt is not the same as Stellantis' debt. They're two different things, but I'll look and talk about that in a separate video. However, that comparison is not an apples to apples comparison, so don't read that information and actually trust that. Someone tells you that, there's more to that story. Price to earnings ratio for Stellantis of 2.79. The company is valued incredibly low for its current earnings. The key question here I have is, to these investors and these institutional gurus, is this: what will Stellantis' sales and profit be in 8 years from now? I think that's more important than where they are at right now, because the world's greatest disruption is happening right now, as evidenced by the fact they just declared bankruptcy in China. Now, for those of you who are new to the channel or don't know, in China, the only automotive company in China that's from the West that has its own company that owns 100%, or its own factory that owns 100%, or its own factory period at all, is Tesla. Tesla 100% own their factory. Now, yes, you can own your own factory in China. You don't have to have a joint venture. Those rules were changed about 2 years ago. However, every major automaker in China, there's a lot of them, Volkswagen, Toyota, pretty much everyone is playing in China. Everyone who's big is in China and selling a lot of vehicles in China because there's a lot of money to be made in China. Volkswagen Group, right? They make 40% of their profits in China. Very important to them. So Stellantis, they have a joint venture partner, GAC. GAC make a lot of electric cars. In fact, they make pretty good electric cars too. They make EVs for a fair few different companies. And Stellantis had a joint venture with GAC, which is normal for all the other brands aside from Tesla to have a joint venture where they'll own around 50% of the company. However, Stellantis have announced that the joint venture between Stellantis and Guangzhou Automobile Group, or GAC, is filing for bankruptcy. The GAC FCA joint venture, which produces Jeep vehicles in China. Jeep vehicles, by the way, are the second most important vehicle for the brand, period, says it has fully impaired the value of its investment in its financial results for the first half of 2022. Now, interestingly, this information cannot be found anywhere on Stellantis' press release or the information on their personal website, on their business website for the H2 results for the first half of the year. Interestingly, they left this information off their report. Don't know why, but at the same time, I read their comments from the first half, the H2 reporting call that they had with the media or, journalists, etc. They said something along the lines of, everyone else is at great risk of huge trouble because they're in China, they're selling vehicles in China. We're not doing much in China. We are still going to stay in China, but we're not doing a whole lot. But, that's why you guys should look at us and think we're leading because we're not focusing on China. That is kind of a good point. But interestingly, they didn't at the time disclose the information that they did at the time know, which was they were about to declare bankruptcy in China. I personally think that was a bit dishonest. They knew what they were doing. They decided not to disclose that information at their H2 earnings report, the first half of the year, or the second quarter earnings report. Now, the collaboration to build Jeep vehicles in China, by the way, yes, the Chinese do love Jeep vehicles. I don't know why they're not selling because, frankly, there is a lot of brands making cars right now that look just like Jeeps because the Chinese love cars that are like that size and have that kind of style. Very popular. However, this collaboration to build Jeep vehicles in China is the oldest joint venture in China's history. The joint venture dates back to 1984 when the now defunct AMC invested in a Beijing Jeep joint venture. Since then, there's been a couple of ownership changes after Chrysler acquired AMC and Fiat acquired Chrysler, which evolved into Stellantis after a merger with Peugeot in 2021. In a press statement, Stellantis stated that GAC has approved the bankruptcy filing in a loss-making context. The automaker also revealed that it would still offer its services to China's current and future Jeep customers. So, is Stellantis actually giving up on China? Well, Stellantis thinks the venture is no longer profitable as it has seen sales drop by 50% in 2021 to only 20,400 units compared to the previous year. The venture currently offers the Compass crossover and the Jeep Cherokee SUV in China. It doesn't make electric vehicles, which is what Chinese people want. So you can see why Stellantis thinks, well, what's the point? So far, in 2022, Stellantis has sold only 2,000 vehicles, and in May, it sold one car. So, well, it's declaring bankruptcy, but the market already declared bankruptcy for it a long time ago. The writing was clearly on the wall. Now, here's the thing. In 2017, Stellantis actually sold 203,000 vehicles in China. That's a lot of cars, 203,000. So it's gone from 203,000 in 2017 to, only to less than 2,000 in 2022. That's a precipitous drop-off, and it shows what can happen if you don't stay ahead of market trends. So ask Jeep, ask Stellantis, ask Fiat, ask Peugeot, ask Chrysler, are they staying ahead of market trends? Can they maintain market share where they need to? Well, that's a good question. And if you actually have a look at the truth and not Stellantis' marketing blurb, which is basically what their reports at the end of the quarters are, just marketing blurbs that tell you almost nothing. Very hard to find any true information from those marketing blurbs. It's just all percentages, no actual numbers and real data. It took me, in fact, a long time to get the real numbers. Then you'll see that Stellantis actually are dependent on really just two markets. They make all of their money in the US, where their sales are contracting pretty much every quarter, and Europe. Europe is Stellantis' most important market. The US is their second most important market. But, however, if you look at it on a model basis, Stellantis are very dependent upon two particular models. Those models are their best-selling vehicle worldwide by a very wide margin, and in fact their most profitable vehicle worldwide, and that is the Ram 1500. If you actually put Ram 1500 and 2500s together, they make and sell more of those than any other car by a factor of about 5. The 1500 and the 2500, the Ram pickup truck, are extremely important because they make much bigger margins on that vehicle than any other car they sell. In fact, they sell around 600,000 of those every year, well, at least they did last year. The second most popular vehicle type that they sells less than half that number. And that's the Jeep Wrangler with 272,000 sales in 2021. Third is the Peugeot 208 with 268,000 deliveries, but that's a much cheaper vehicle and therefore Stellantis make less profit on that car. Now, yes, it's true. Stellantis made 8 billion euros in the first half of the year. So on average, about $4 billion US dollars per quarter for the first quarter and then about $4 billion in the second quarter of the year. Which means they made around the same profit as what GM made in the third quarter of this year, if you're averaging it out, right? And yes, General Motors have a lot more debt than Stellantis. But I can tell you right now, the future of General Motors is maybe not much better, but it's certainly much clearer. It's much less murky than Stellantis's. While Stellantis do have very low debt for an automaker, that is unquestionably true. And in fact, they have quite a lot of cash on hand. In fact, they actually have enough cash on hand to pay off all of their debt, which is, well, the only other automotive company in the world in that position is Tesla. But Tesla have, well, only $2 billion in debt and $22 billion in cash in hand. So yeah, Tesla could pay off their debt with, well, only 10% of their cash on hand. Stellantis is not quite in that financial position, but it would claim it has masses of assets all around the world with all of its car factories. I would claim that a lot of those are actually liabilities because they primarily produce gasoline-powered cars. And here's the challenge. Now, if you were to go to Seeking Alpha would be telling you, buy the stock now. It's amazing. I've just been reading a few Seeking Alpha articles and frankly, my brain is hurting. The amount of made-up words in those articles that I've never heard before. I mean, marginalities. Have you ever heard of that word? Marginalities used in the context of margins? Yeah. Anyhow, my brain is hurting. So let's just make this simple. Stellantis is now a group that owns 15 different brands. Abarth, Alfa Romeo, Chrysler, Citroën, Dodge, DS, Fiat Professional, Jeep, Lancia, Opel, Peugeot, Ram, Vauxhall, and Maserati. In 2021, Stellantis shipped 6.15 million vehicles. Now, depending on how you want to look at it, Stellantis is either the third, fourth, or fifth largest automobile group in the world. If you include Renault, Nissan, Mitsubishi as a group together, which I no longer do because of the fact that Renault is divesting themselves of Nissan, then it would mean that Stellantis is the fourth biggest company. But if you don't put those brands together, then Stellantis is third. However, if you include Hyundai and Kia together, then they're third. So it's all a bit confusing. However, let's just say they're around about fourth most number of vehicles sold in the world. In 2021, its revenue was $152 billion with a net profit of $14 billion. For context, this year, Tesla's revenue in the third quarter of the year, so just in one quarter of the year, was $22 billion. Stellantis averaged around $38 billion per quarter last year. Tesla's profit was $5.5 billion. Stellantis' profit for the 4 quarters of last year was $14 billion, meaning they averaged around about $3.5 billion in profit per quarter. Clearly, they make a lot less profit per car than Tesla, but that doesn't mean they're doing badly. They're still actually doing pretty well right now. However, I'm going to leave you with this one very important fact. Of Stellantis' top 10 selling cars, the first 9 vehicles are all primarily gasoline powered. Number 1, Ram 1500. Number 2, Jeep Wrangler. Number 3, Peugeot 208. The number 4, Jeep Compass. Number 5, Peugeot 2008. Number 6, the Jeep Grand Cherokee. The number 7, Jeep Renegade. Number 8, Citroën C3. And the number 9, Opel Vauxhall Corsa. In fact, even the Fiat Abarth 500 in 10th place is primarily gasoline powered. Now, of those vehicles, some of those models, they do have EVs available, but they make up a tiny fraction of their sales. And of course, there is currently no Ram 1500 or 2500 electric pickup truck. There is no electric Jeep Wrangler. There is no electric Jeep Compass. And there is no electric Jeep Grand Cherokee. Now, yes, Stellantis have said at some point in the future, they'll release electric versions of these. However, the CEO Carlos Tavares said it will cost them twice as much to build them in their electric version as it will in their gasoline-powered version. If that sounds like a company to you that's ready to transition to EVs, well, yeah, hey, Maybe you're right. Let me know what your thoughts are and why you're arguing that this company will be successful in 2030 versus now. Personally, I believe that they will more than likely need government support. In fact, significant government support. They are nowhere near ready for the future electric world. Why do they pull out of China? Why do their vehicle sales go from 230,000 in China to only a few years later, basically nothing, right? It's called disruption. It's called electric cars, and it's called Stellantis not being ready. Now, they say they're the world's third largest electric vehicle manufacturer. My friends, that is not a fact. In reality, they are not even a top 5 global electric vehicle manufacturer. Even if you include plug-in hybrids, they're still not a top 5. The first in the world was BYD with 974,000 over the first 8 months of this year. Second was Tesla with 720,000. However, all of Tesla's vehicles were fully electric. About half of BYD's were fully electric. Third, Volkswagen with 477,000. Of course, a significant number of those are plug-in hybrids. SAIC was in fourth with 458,000, and Geely was in fifth with 328,000. As you can see, their EV sales, Stellantis's, don't even figure into the global equation. In fact, in August of 2022 and September of 2022, Stellantis didn't have a single electric powered vehicle that ranked in the top 20 vehicle sales worldwide. Now, the bizarre thing about this is, guess who does? GAC, their joint venture partner in China. In fact, GAC have quite a number of electric vehicles that sell in large numbers. And here is where the facts start to get really concerning for Stellantis. In August and September, Stellantis didn't have a single brand in their group of brands, which was ranked anywhere from 1 to 20th place in the world. And from January to August of 2022, they didn't have a single brand that ranked in the top 20 worldwide from 1 to 20 either. Is that really sounding like a company to you that's ready to transition to a new world of electric cars? I don't think it is. Now, Stellantis has one very good thing going for it. Pretty much no debt. However, the one thing it doesn't have going for it is an actual plan to make money selling vehicles in 2030. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.